On TikTok, for example, you see these beautiful aesthetics of being the main character. A lot of times you're traveling or you're eating somewhere super cool, or you're in a housing situation that's very aesthetically pleasing. Everything's neat and beautiful and holistic. But when you are going through things, whether it is a loss of income or loss of a job, or your pet passed away, or you're moving, it can become very stressful, especially when it's done in a short period of time, which is often the case. There's a reason why there's a saying of when it rains, it pours, because all of a sudden this domino effect starts to happen. When one thing happens and another thing happens and another thing happens, and then boom, it's as if all the weight of the world is on your shoulders. Did I feel like the main character throughout these 30 days? Absolutely not. But that's okay, because guess what? That's part of my system. So in this video, I'm going to give you just some tips and tricks that I've used in the last 30 days that perhaps might help you if you're not feeling like the main character of your story because you're just going through some shit. Tip number one is definitely get off social media. After this video is done, we all know the game of social media. We put our best selves out there, and then what do? Psychologically, we can't help but compare ourselves to the next person. Even though we logically know that's okay, that's their highlight reel, and I can't compare my real life reel to their highlight reel. But especially when you're not feeling great, with the amount of energy units you need to use every single day just to get down to your homeostasis, your baseline of where you need to be just to function as a human being, we don't want to add on top of that social media and trying to compare yourself to somebody else because it seems like their life's just looks easier. That added pressure is just so unnecessary. The most peaceful time I've had is when I went on a Vipassana meditation retreat, which is this meditation retreat in which you go for 10 days. It's a silent meditation, so you're not allowed to talk to anybody. It includes not reading, not writing. You're not allowed to listen to music. You're not allowed to obviously have your phone. No communication at all. I didn't have to be anybody. And in that time frame, interestingly enough, I stopped smiling, and I realized that the only reason why I smile so much is for other people to feel comfortable with me. Now, I will say I laugh quite frequently to myself, by myself. But that being said, I don't naturally smile unless I know I have to communicate with somebody. Especially when I start to grieve, I just want to distract myself, and it's easy for me to dive into social media, easy for me to dive into Netflix, easy for me to dive myself even into books, even into working out, even something that seems positive. All of that is just a distraction for me to avoid my emotions. On the note of emotions, I like to schedule out my emotional time. Let me explain. At 10 p.m. to 11:30 p.m., I'm going to cry my heart out. And what I do in that hour and a half is actually force myself to think about it, even if I didn't want to think about it. Sometimes it helps for me to journal it out. I had a timer, and the timer would go off. I would close down my journal. I would stop crying. And then I would go to sleep. That schedule went from an hour and a half of grieving time to an hour grieving time to 30 minutes. And eventually I didn't have to schedule a time to grieve anymore. And I know that might come across as some way because I'm systemizing emotions, but we do have to systemize our life because we can't get emotional anywhere and everywhere because it's not appropriate everywhere. But you also don't want to deny your emotions. I am old enough to know now that if you try to push down your emotions or try to forget it or suppress it, it's going to come up later in life. And trust me, you don't want that to happen, because how I see it is that you can take control of your emotions and schedule it, or you're going to allow yourself to get emotional in times in which you shouldn't be, meaning you're triggered by somebody saying something and now you're in road rage. And then you try to turn on music to drown out that pain. That's the suppressed emotions trying to come up. But it's because you haven't dealt with that. You haven't scheduled out that emotional time. For some people, they need to do it with a therapist, and for some people, you just need to schedule it and be disciplined enough to allow yourself to grieve. We shouldn't block it out. At the same time, we need to make sure it's done in an appropriate and productive way. So scheduling an emotional safety time has really helped me out a lot. So hopefully it helps you too. Another thing about the main character is that you don't always have to be the main character. You don't always have to do that big next thing that's out there. I do think there's something to be said about being a supportive character. I'll give you an example because there's this friend that I have. He's a director, writer, talented man. I mean, editor, graphic designer. He's literally can do everything and anything. He posted an Indiegogo campaign for his series that he wants to do. I just gave a good chunk of money, and trust me, I am not balling, but the reason why I did that is just because here's this person really going for it. He is living his main character life, and he is asking for help because he really wants to fund one of his dreams, which is doing this series. And I also know he's a hard worker and he's not gonna mess it up. I think a part of me just wanted to give to somebody else unconditional love and support, especially because ultimately that's what I want. I guess what I'm really trying to say is that whatever you want from somebody else, be that person. Doing that for somebody else, it sparked a light in me and it gave me hope. So it's easier for me to believe that other people have that in me, and it's also easier for me to believe that I have that for myself. And I can't explain to you what's happening psychologically, why that is, but I'm just telling you that's how I feel. Even throughout these last 30 days, just having these little moments of being there for a friend and just being a listening ear. When somebody does that for me, I freaking appreciate it. It really gave me a way back into reality. Because when you're in this depressive, woe is me mode, you can distort the reality and perception of what is really happening in your life and forget all of the blessings that has come your way. Also, dressing nicely as if you're going somewhere, even if you're staying at home, that's a good one. Last but not least, even if it's all BS. So this means spiritual means it could be a hypnotherapy, it could be a psychologist, it could be a business coach, it could be a life coach, or it could be buying courses that's going to better yourself or better understand yourself. In the last month, I definitely hired multiple consultants just to check out certain things about what I'm doing right now. I went to a hypnotherapist as well who came highly recommended, and I don't know if it's placebo effect, but I am feeling slightly better. And even if it's placebo effect, then hey, it's worth it. Because this whole time I was just talking about something that you can do internally by yourself, but I do think at a certain point and after you've done all that work, it's time to step into the real world and connect with other people, other ideas, and other things. That's it for me the last 30 days, but comment below, let me know if you've been feeling main character energy or supportive character energy, and either is beautiful and fine just the way it is. Let me know, and I will see you on the next video.
Start your computations.